What do you do if you come home to find your neighbor, his door is open, and the smell of decay is wafting out? Well, one Milwaukee resident did the logical thing, called the cops and told them there was probably a dead raccoon in the air vents. That was the last thing anyone expected. It was the beginning of one of the most horrifying investigations in history. The year before, someone had called in a similar complaint about the same apartment, but the stench had gone away after a few days, so nothing came of it. But this time, when police entered the apartment, they found something far worse than a dead animal. They found a scene straight out of a horror movie. Inside the refrigerator was a severed human head on the top shelf next to a container of what looked like ice. But when they moved the ice, they found human hearts, livers, and biceps carefully wrapped and stored. For a moment, they couldn't believe their eyes. They thought they were dealing with a case of medical necrophilia. But then they saw the rest of the apartment. The drawers contained photos of dismembered bodies, and on the floor was a blue barrel filled with acid. It was used to dissolve flesh. Skulls sat on the shelves next to Polaroids of corpses posed like dolls. And downstairs, a mattress was stained with blood, surrounded by tools that should never be in a bedroom. The detectives who entered that room would later say that they'd never seen anything like it. They'd experienced some truly disturbing things, but this was different. This was pure evil. It turned out that the person living in that nightmare was a 31-year-old man named Jeffrey Dahmer. When asked what happened in the apartment, he gave police a blank stare. But then he started to talk, describing in detail how he'd murdered 17 young men and boys, many of whom were lured to his apartment under false pretenses, only to become unwilling subjects in his twisted fantasy of domination, death, and control. He confessed to drilling into their skulls and injecting them with acid, trying to create zombies. He admitted to dismembering his victims and keeping parts of their bodies as trophies, including the head and heart. He showed police a map of sorts, describing where he'd buried some of the bodies and led them to a nearby motel where he'd stored other body parts. When asked why he'd done it, Dahmer said he wanted company. And the worst part, he might have gotten away with it if one of his victims hadn't escaped. A young man named Tracy Edwards, who was handcuffed at the time, managed to escape Dahmer's clutches and flag down the police. He led them back to the apartment of nightmares, and the rest is history. In the end, Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced to 15 life sentences plus 30 years. He died in prison in 1994 after being beaten by a fellow inmate. The official cause of death was a blow to the head, but rumors persist that he was strangled with a towel, a dildo, or maybe even an electrical cord. Do you think any of those rumors are true? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want more stories like this one, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.